Hi, I'm Christopher Walker with Closely Observed Teaching, and in this short video, I want to show you a basic framework for an easy lesson that you can do that works much better on Zoom than it will do in a regular face-to-face classroom. And what we want is as many of these sort of lessons as possible because we're in this new reality. We're doing a lot of online teaching, and the best thing for us and for our students is to really pivot towards the platforms that we're using. If we try to replicate what we had face to face, it's always going to be, I don't know, like working in the shadows almost, but working with the platform rather than against it can help. So I'm going to show you a lesson here that I did very recently with a B1 level teen class, and it worked very successfully. We had a few technical hiccups along the way, but I think that was just because of the quantity of people on Zoom at the moment. And essentially, we were looking at the topic of the environment. And in the books, we'd been exploring vocabulary to describe the environment, and we'd been talking about environmental problems. So in this lesson, we used Geoguessr, the free version that's available at the link here, and I'll post a link in the description. And we played on the free map. And basically, we started with a demonstration with the whole group. So I had my thumbnail images of the other students down the side of the screen. And then in the main part of the screen, I had Geoguessr. If you've not played this game before, it's a lot of fun. It's basically a random street view somewhere around the world. And it asks you to guess where, essentially. So I'm going to make a couple of videos using this Geoguessr because there are a couple of language points that lend themselves very readily to the game. So yeah, you have the big full map here. It works best for students who are on a laptop, I have to say, because having the mouse to control what you're doing is a lot easier than having the tablet devices. It seems to be taking a bit of time. Here we go. Right. Ooh. So this is our first location. Interesting. Okay, so what I'm going to do first then is I'm going to open the annotates tool, and I'm going to draw a solid rectangle, and I'll go for a nice light green color, and I'm going to do that over here on the side. So that's going to eat up some of the screen real estate, but it doesn't matter. And then I'm going to draw another line to separate one part from the other. There we go. And now with the text tool, let's go for a nice brown, shall we? The text tool here, I'm going to say vocabulary, and here environmental issues. There we go. That's great. So we've got those two. Now what I did was I asked my students to look at this picture and to tell me some of the vocabulary that they could see, especially pertaining to the weather. So obviously we've got snow, winter, cold climate, frost, ice. Got lots of language like that. And then down here in the environmental issues, let's go for a dark red, shall we? What sort of environmental issues do you think there are here? Well, it's cold, so you need heating. Heating burns wood in a lot of cases, and that can lead to air pollution. Wonderful. There we go. So we've got ourselves some vocabulary to describe this. We've got environmental issues connected with it. And what I can do now is I can click the Save button up here on the Annotate toolbar, and that will save a screenshot. This will be important later. Basically what I'm doing is I'm demonstrating to the students how to manage all of these things. They're going to be doing a project that repeats this, but for themselves. So now we get to have a little look around. It looks very cold. It looks very communist. So I'm going to guess it's somewhere in the colder regions in Russia. So let me guess that. And oh wow, that was actually pretty impressive. I wasn't expecting that. So yeah, I managed to get myself within 267 miles of the correct location. You can be suspicious if you want, if you think that I'm cheating and I'm doing this again, but the locations are fairly random. Okay, so now we've got another location. Aha, so we've got this vocabulary already: snow, winter, cold climate, frost, and ice. Does any of this fit this location? Not really. So what have we got now? Well, we there are a couple of things we can do now. I mean, depending on how you want to do the lesson, you can get rid of some of the text from here. A couple of clicks of undo will clear it, because you're keeping this annotate panel open as you move from part of to part of the game. I know it covers up about a fifth of the screen, but I don't think it matters too much. So I've cleared it, and I'm going to put some new vocabulary in there. So we've got, if I was doing it with a higher level class, verdant, lush, overgrown, fecund, fertile, all of these sort of things. So that would be more like a C1 class rather than the B1. Environmental issues, well, tropical climate. So I guess that means tropical storms, flooding, maybe even not just flooding, but flash flooding. You get the idea. We can build up a list of the environmental issues that we'll be dealing with here. Okay, so what do you reckon? I'm going to say somewhere like maybe Fiji or something like that. So let's stick it on there. And oh, well, wouldn't you know, I was actually correct again. Seriously, I'm not cheating. So I was only 64 miles or 100 kilometers away from the correct location. I'm doing quite well earning points here. Right, so we'll do one more together. So I'm going to undo, and I've got that. I forgot to make a picture, didn't I? So yeah, I have to bear in mind that it's easy to forget these things. So, okay, undo. So what have we got now? Wow, this is a Google Maps guy on a motorbike, which is not something you see every day. So it still looks kind of tropical, but it looks more developed. We've got lots of traffic, but traffic, I would say, is more of an environmental issue. Traffic, so problems with air quality, congestion. We can talk about these different aspects. Okay, so where do we think we are? Well, clearly we're on the left side of the road, somewhere like that. Gosh, this is a difficult one. I would say maybe Manila, something like that, because it's fairly tropical. And Manila, did they drive on the left or the right in Manila? Well, let's guess. We have to wait 10 seconds because this is the free version of Geoguessr. The Google API costs money, and the people running this, and it's good of them to still have this free version. You have the option of upgrading if you want to. So okay, so it was actually more like Jakarta. So I didn't do quite so well there. I suppose on further reflection, I should have known better than that. Okay, so 3 rounds is enough to get you going, to give you an impression of what to do. And this is what you do next. Like I said before, ideally, you want students to be using a laptop, at least one student. Let's say 1 or 2 students in a class of 4 or 5, or up to 10 would work fine. So find out who's got a laptop, and they can be the group leaders. So the way I did it yesterday, I was very lucky. I had 3 students in a class of 9 who had laptops. So I created breakout rooms for 3 groups, and I manually assigned the students. Well, actually, I auto-generated the breakout rooms, but then I moved the students so that there was 1 student with a laptop in each of the groups. Then I sent them to their breakout rooms with the link. So I posted the link to Geoguessr in the chat, and I said, okay, when you go to the breakout room, if you're on a computer, if you're on a laptop, please follow the link and open it in your browser. So then I went to each of the breakout rooms in turn, and I explained carefully and showed them carefully what I wanted them to do. So if you're on the laptop, please open the game, then share the screen so that you have the game up on the screen. And they did that. It's like, great. Now can you start the annotate? I showed them how to do that. They then drew the box that we have over on the side here, and I told them for every screen that they see, it's their job to fill in the vocabulary and environmental issues and then save it. Now, I know that they're not going to remember to do that correctly every time, but that's fine because I've already planned ahead. What I want later is for each group to report back to the whole class on their findings, and they're going to show one of the pictures that they took, where they show the screen, they show the vocabulary, and they talk about these environmental issues. So if I hope for them to, well, if I asked for them to do it for all 5 of the rounds that you play in the game, they're probably not going to do that, but they might do it for 2 or 3, and that's great. So they'll get this practice of using the Zoom interface, of sharing the screen, creating the annotation, saving the images, and then later when we go back to the full class, they will be able to share the images that resulted from playing this game. And then we'll be able to do a further discussion of the environmental issues. We also get to share vocabulary. Some of the students will know words that others don't, and they'll be able to talk about these things in a different way. So there's a lot of student-generated content that you can explore here and lots of discussion areas, but also it gets the students doing a fun game for free through the device, and it kind of shows them a little bit as well as it showing us that there are things you can do in Zoom that you couldn't do so well in the classroom. Imagine if you wanted to do this in the classroom in groups of 3 or 4 students at a time. It would be difficult. It really would. So I played this game yesterday with my students. They were B1 level teenagers. Amazingly, we had no real technical problems once we got into the breakout rooms. At the start of the lesson, something odd was going on with the breakout rooms and they weren't working. So we had to do something else for the first half an hour or so. But when we got into this, they loved it and they really enjoyed it, and they got competitive as well. And that's the last thing. Notice that there are scores here, and you get scores for each round. And at the end of the 5 rounds, you get a summary score. So get the students to make a note of that as well, so that we can see who the winners are. And they did get very competitive. Okay, so that is pretty much it. Give it a go. See how it works for you. See if it results in an interesting lesson. I'm going to be returning to the same game for the next video, where I'll be showing you how you could use the GeoGuessr game in the most obvious way, I suppose, which would be for speculation, modals of speculation, and other expressions of speculation. So if you found this video useful and you like it, please like the video itself and maybe consider giving me a subscribe. It'll help me reach a wider audience through my channel. That would really help. So from me today, that's it. Thank you very much and goodbye.